Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Poonam Chawla, an assistant professor with Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies in Rohini. Today we are going to discuss on the interesting and intriguing subject of current and emerging trends in training and development part 2. The inclusions of the module are Introduction, Training and Development through a Change Model Lens, Methods to identify need for change, Key issues in implementing change, Change interventions, followed by the summary of the module. To provide you an introduction and background, the previous module discussed the importance of emerging trends in the training and development field. But the truth is that for training and development to be effectively implemented, they must be well accepted by the target audience, and application of newer training methods due to consistent and increased use of technology states that training and development must be viewed from a change model perspective to be successfully implemented. Undoubtedly, the concept of change has always been from organizational perspective, but applying the similar fundamentals to specific fields of management can lead to desired results. This module discusses the emerging trend of training and development from the change model perspective and adjusts the various methods to determine whether change is necessary and the issues involved in implementing change. Training and development through a change management lens. For any change to occur in an organization, it is necessary that four conditions are satisfied, and they are: number one, employees must be aware of the reasons for change and must agree to those reasons. Second, employees must have the skill needed to imply the change. Third, employees must view managers and other employees who are influential in adapting to change, and structural support should be given in terms of compensation system, and performance management system must support the change. It is imperative to mention here that change is not easy, either for managers or employees, even if they are aware that a particular process can be undertaken in a better manner, as they have learnt to cope with the inadequacies of the current system. Thus, if new training and development practices are introduced in the system, it may likely cause resistance from the part of the employees. Therefore, before introducing newer methods of training, it is necessary that trainers must think of methods of enhancing acceptance for it. The figure in the forthcoming slide is a model of change. It cites that the process of change is dependent on the interaction between four components of a firm, namely task, employees, formal organization arrangements, and informal organization arrangements. Various change related hurdles happen to the organizational component that is influenced by the change. For example, introduction of newer technology in training shall reduce the control of managers in the training sessions as compared to the scenario when traditional methods of training were used, leading to change in the power structure. It may cause tension and power imbalance in the organizational system, and if these implications are not dealt in an effective manner, chances are that managers may show their resistance in accepting the new training and development program. It is imperative to mention the 4 change related problems that might occur and must be addressed in an effective manner before any new training practice is implemented in the organization. These 4 issues are resistance to change, loss of control, power imbalance, and task redefinition. Resistance to change is defined as managers and employees' unwillingness to change because they might be unprepared and are anxious towards the change process and have a personal feeling that they won't be able to cope up with the change and maybe are well adjusted with the old training practices and are adamant to embrace the newer practices. Control refers to change in status of either managers or employees on various resources that are considered useful and valuable by them. For example, data, information, or money, and adoption of newer technology for training and development can lead to lesser control over resources. The situation can sometimes be vice versa also, as workforce may have to adapt to control newer responsibilities and processes which they might not be able to part earlier from. Power is another big issue that plays a vital role as managers may lose their significance because employees now have access to all databases and autonomy for delivery of products and services. Steps in the change process. The first step in the change process is identify an issue and develop a sense of urgency to bring effective change for meeting organizational objectives. The first step in the change process is to identify the issue and the manner in which change must be brought in this situation. The second step is identify possible solutions. The managers and employees should get together and try to find plausible solutions to the problems. Ideas from the employees must be welcomed and discussed for their feasibility. This will generate a sense of belongingness amongst the employees and reduce resistance to change. The third is communicate for buy-in. The employees must be communicated through various channels and updated what is happening, as it will help them to be a part of the complete process. Choose the appropriate course of action and announce. Although the employees have been involved at every stage, it is necessary that the final course of action must be announced and proper reasoning should be provided for the same. The next step is execute and create short-term wins. The change must have the top management support, and this can be ensured by celebrations and acknowledgements of small wins, and progress should be made to keep the employees enthusiastic. Last step is follow up, reevaluate and modify. Be flexible and provide scope for changes. Review mistakes and work in team to rectify those mistakes. Methods to identify the need for change. If the phenomena of training is viewed from the system's perspective, organizations need to understand both external and internal environment. They must understand the current training exercises used in the company and the need to shift to new training practices that organization tends to adopt and are used in other organizations also. Benchmarking and process reengineering are two methods that can be used to identify the need for change. Benchmarking. Benchmarking can be defined as the process that can be used to assess information about other companies, practices, and process re-engineering provides information about the efficiency and effectiveness of the training practices within the firm. Benchmarking is one of the important part of an organization's quality strategy. Benchmarking practices can be beneficial for training in many ways. For example, organizations can identify how excellent firms conduct their training programs and what steps are taken to successfully implement the program. It also helps the firm to analyze the level of its training practices vis-a-vis other organizations. Through the effective use of this practice, the company can also make an attempt to learn from other entities. The organization can put to use such information in an effective manner and enhance the chances towards acceptability of new practices. To learn from benchmark organizations can lead to development of a case of changing training and development practices for meeting the primary or superordinate objective of the organization. The idea of benchmarking was developed by Xerox for the objective of competing with generic low-priced copiers. The benchmarking process can be categorized into 10 steps. The first step in the benchmarking process is identify what is to be benchmarked. Second, identify comparable companies. Third, mention data collection methods and collect data. Followed by mention current performance levels, project future performance levels. Followed by communicate benchmark results and gain acceptance. Followed by establish functional goals for the employees. Develop action plans to reach those functional goals. Implement action plans and monitor progress. Once you have monitored your progress, recalibrate your benchmarks. To put the practice of benchmarking effectively to use, organizations, apart from collecting information itself, must also use the services of a company which is into the business of collecting information from various firms pertaining to human resource practices like ISTD, which is the Indian Society for Training and Development. There are various factors that trainers must consider while undertaking the benchmarking practice, like mentioning the purpose of benchmarking and the practice that needs to be benchmarked. Information about internal processes should also be collected for matching purposes. The interest of top-level management must be highlighted in the complete process, and qualitative as well as quantitative information must be collected for precise results. Description of training program used in the organization is as necessary as collecting information for best practices in the field. The purpose of benchmarking is not to learn and copy. Rather, it is to learn and improvise your own processes. To implement the phenomena of benchmarking, it is necessary that the human resource practitioners must not consider the human resource practices in isolation. That is, benchmarking is one component of the improvement process. So, data collected from the process must be viewed on a broader paradigm rather than restricting it to one field or silo for better results. Process re-engineering. Trainers must make an attempt to understand the training and development practices which are used in the organization and evaluate them periodically to assess if any change is required. Re-engineering involves a critical evaluation of all the processes and identifies the loopholes in the process so that shortcomings in the processes can be removed or the process can be re-engineered to make it more efficient and effective. The process of re-engineering takes a critical role when the trainers intend to introduce new technology in the training process or want to change the methods that are being used in the training. Re-engineering can also offer great help when trainers tend to integrate the training process with other departments and also put in sync the administrative processes and effectively provide service to their target audience. Re-engineering as a concept can either be applied to the whole training function or to a specific training program such as career management systems. The steps in the re-engineering process are discussed below and are depicted by the diagram. The first step is identify the process. The first and foremost step is to identify the process which has to be re-engineered. It is necessary that trainers who are undertaking the process should be a part of the re-engineering team. Team members must also take a consultative role in the process so that valuable ideas about understanding the process can be gathered from them. The second step is understand the process. While understanding and evaluating the process, it is necessary that various items need to be kept in mind. For instance, an employee can be given more autonomy, evaluation of each step in the process and removal of redundant steps. Plan for dealing special cases and are the steps in the process arranged in their natural order and what is the value of the process. Many techniques can be used to understand and evaluate the process like data flow diagrams which highlight the flow of data between the diagrams, data entity relationship diagrams which highlight the data within a business function and the relationship among the data. Such data can help in assessment of previous training requests and the manner in which they were fulfilled. The next step is redefine and redesign the process. Once the process has been evaluated, redesign the process and produce a new model. Test it and choose a prototype and integrate the prototype into organization. The last step is implement the process. The company tries out the process by testing it in a limited controlled setting before applying it on a larger scale. Key issues in implementing change. The pressure of technology, globalization, and diversity enforces the business to embrace change for sustainability and success. Organization development is one of the planned systematic change process that uses a planned approach to change integrated with behavioral science and techniques to enhance organization's effectiveness by improving its relationship and increasing learning and problem solving capabilities. A learning environment can be created through enhanced trust, confrontation of problems, employee empowerment and participation, knowledge sharing, and by providing employees with autonomy to enhance their skills for better productivity. Change management is the systematic process which ensures that the employees and managers smoothly accept new practices. In this case, it refers to training practices. The various issues that are faced by the organization are overcoming resistance to change, managing the transition to the new practice, shaping political dynamics, and using training to stabilize change. These issues are discussed in detail below. The first issue is overcoming resistance to change. Resistance to change is a phenomena that cannot be avoided, but can certainly be minimized to smoothen the process of change. It can be minimized by involving the people who shall be most affected by the change, and furthermore by rewarding them for embracing the change. It is imperative that at this stage, management explains the benefits of the new training program to them, which can be in terms of better quality training, connection between training and compensation, and online access to training program. For instance, a beautiful and classic example of overcoming change was at the Pepsi bottling plant, wherein 20 different departments under the shared service division functioned independently and they performed the same function differently. To set standard operating procedures, a set of employees came up with the shared set of practices, but the departments were not willing to accept it. The next Herculean step was to overcome this resistance of employees, which was done by involving more and more employees and then posting the policies and procedures online for a smoother experience. More involvement of the employees led to a better acceptance and helped the company to cut costs. Managing the transition. The organization must be well equipped to manage the transition, which must involve communicating the results and having sufficient organizational arrangements for the same, like the firm can use a single individual or group of individuals who act as facilitators during the change. The firm can also run the old and new procedures together to highlight the benefits that are associated with the new procedures as compared to the old ones. If any loopholes are identified in the new procedure, they can be worked out. This parallel process is utilized when the company utilizes a new technological input. The next step is shaping political dynamics. It is necessary for the managers to seek attention of formal and informal leaders and take them along in the change. Process, as it will help in shaping the political dynamics of the whole program. These formal and informal leaders can play a conducive role in developing open communication channels between the top management and the employees and thus smoothen the change process. In context of training, it also means viewing the function from a strategic perspective. For instance, if the marketing department is facing a problem and needs to introduce new technology to reduce the problem but is facing resistance from the employees in the department, the manager can integrate well with the trainer, making him understand the business problem, and the trainer acts as a change agent and helps the employee to understand the role and importance of the change and help overcome the issue in hand. But usually, many managers have misconceptions about training, like they do not consider training to be beneficial. Secondly, they consider it as an expense rather than an investment. And thirdly, they believe that anybody can be a trainer. And lastly, treating training as only the responsibility of the trainers. Training has to be and should be integrated with other functions to get positive results. And this is one change that is very necessary to fortify the results of training in long term. Using training to stabilize change. After the change has been brought in, it is necessary that people should adopt it as a habit, and training is the key to it. The individuals must be trained for adapting to change and must be evaluated for its effectiveness. Till the time they are not settled in the whole process and the system is in place. Change interventions. Although the focus of the module was to use training as a change intervention, there are many other interventions that have been used by the firms to bring change, namely survey feedback, process consultation, and group intervention. Survey feedback portrays the feedback which is collected from the employees regarding their attitude and perception about an issue, and the results of the same are summarized and discussed with employees to identify problems and plausible solutions. This change intervention is considered to bring more coherence at the workplace. Another frequently used intervention is process consultation, wherein a consultant is appointed and he works in cohesion with the managers and the employees to improve a certain business process. Process consultation can be undertaken for improving the relationship amongst the employees, workflows, manners in which the decisions are made, communication patterns, and so on. Group interventions are usually carried on a large scale and involve the other stakeholders like customers and vendors who meet at an off-site location and discuss the problems and offer meaningful solution to solve those problems. A champion is assigned to follow up on the recommendations of the cross-functional team involving various stakeholders, and top management also takes an initiative to evaluate the recommendations. Summary of the module. This module is second in the series of emerging trends in training and development scenario. The first module focused on trends like influence of technology, outsourcing, and integration of training with other functions. This module has sincerely focused on training from a change perspective. The module states that to adapt to new and emerging trends in training and development, the organization needs to view training from the change perspective. The module focused on benchmarking and re-engineering as the pre-requirement for carrying out a change. Once the new training practices are introduced in the organization, they may be resisted by the employees. It is necessary to keep in place meaningful strategies to overcome resistance for change, manage the transition properly, and shape up the political dynamics. The module also discussed various other change interventions like group intervention, survey feedback, and process consultation for a smooth change process. It can be observed from the discussion in the module that change must take a systematic and planned approach for better acceptability and achievement of desired goals. Thank you very much. I hope you understood the module well.